Thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Eddie Boertes, and I help leaders to build a focused and adaptive organizational culture. In today's video, I want to speak about the power of a people-first culture. Not many organizations have demonstrated this at a consistent level better than Marriott International. I also look at 3 powerful lessons that I learned from Arne Sorensen in a recent video message to staff at Marriott International. It's a truly profound example of how to lead through a crisis. Marriott International started off as a 9-stool root beer stand in Washington, D.C. almost 100 years ago. And ever since their inception, they've stayed true to the founding philosophy that if we take care of our people, they will take care of our customers, and the customers will come back. On any given day, around lunchtime, 87-year-old executive chairman Bill Marriott finds his way to the cafeteria on the ground floor of the Bethesda MD, the headquarters of Marriott International. He picks up a tray, chooses some food, he stands in line and pays for his meal just like any other employee. He then finds a table and has his lunch with anyone who wants to join him. Now, despite being the executive and one of the richest people in America, he seeks no special treatment. He shows up for lunch just as he does for any board meeting, as an ordinary person. Now, when engaging with employees and clients, he brings interest, presence, and empathy rather than status, hierarchy, and power. It comes as no surprise. This is an authentic human leadership learned through his grandfather's example. This is what he says. My grandfather early on was late to meetings, especially at his hotels, because he would be sitting one-on-one with housekeepers, asking questions. How is your day going? What's going well? What needs to be improved upon? Are they feeding you well? Being able to show that you care through your actions and your deeds goes a long way, he says. Not long after the company was founded, the Great Depression of 1930 hit. The immediate response of the founders, J. Willard and Alice Marriott, was to hire a staff doctor to make sure that their people had access to health care. They demonstrated care, believing that a reliable, healthy workforce would be able to deliver the kind of service that they wanted their customers to receive. Fast forward a couple of decades, and when the financial crisis hit again in 2008, nothing changed. The same people-first philosophy was at the forefront of every single decision that was made. Like many other companies, the Marriott executive team had to consider different ways to cut their payroll, including reducing work hours. During the negotiations, it was discovered that if they cut employees' hours, it would result in many of them losing their eligibility for healthcare benefits. As they ran through all the implications, then CEO Bill Marriott intervened. He said, then we'll have to suspend the eligibility. We cannot have our associates and their families lose their medical benefits. Fast forward another 12 years, and again Marriott finds itself in the greatest challenge in the history of the organization. And again, there is consistency in their core ideology. As COVID-19 hit at the start of 2020, Marriott saw 90% of its revenue wiped out in China, and within a month, 75% of their international business was wiped out. The response from Arne Sorensen, the current CEO of Marriott, is perhaps the most human and authentic that I have seen. Arne is currently dealing with a major medical crisis of his own, pancreatic cancer. But in a video message directed at all Marriott associates, he is vulnerable, humble, and empathetic. He also displays great hope for the future. He shows great care. Because of his cancer treatment, his appearance is starkly different. He is now bald, and his team was a little bit concerned that he does a video message as a result of this. He quickly deflects attention away from his own challenge and turns his attention to the purpose of his message. I feel good, and my team and I are 100% focused on overcoming the common crisis that we now face. Now let's talk about that crisis. By addressing them on video, he displays 2 qualities that connect us as human beings: vulnerability and humility. You want to rally behind this leader. You want to do your part. These are the 3 lessons that I took from this short message. Number 1 is embrace the Stockdale paradox. In his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins shares a conversation that he had with Vice Admiral Jim Stockdale. He was the highest ranking officer in the Hanoi Hilton, a prisoner of war camp in Vietnam that he spent 7 years in and where he was tortured more than 20 times. What do you do when you're in a situation where you can't see the end of it? Where you don't know when it's going to end? What's your coping methodology? This was the question that he was asked, and this is what he said. I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which in retrospect, I would not trade. He was asked another interesting question. He said, who didn't make it through as successfully as you? He said, oh, that's easy. The optimists. So they were the ones who said, we're going to be out by Christmas. And then Christmas would come and Christmas would go. And Christmas, then they would say, we're going to be out by Easter. And Easter would come and then Easter would go. And then Thanksgiving, and then it would be Christmas again. And they died of a broken heart. Stockdale then grabbed Jim Collins by the shoulder, and then he added, now this is a very important lesson. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. Arne Sorensen in his message doesn't sugarcoat the severity of the current crisis, saying that the current situation is the worst that they've ever experienced as a business. And that is saying something, considering that they've been operating for almost 100 years. He deals with the brutal facts, and then he ends with a message of hope. While it's impossible to know how long this crisis will last, I know that we as a global community will come through the other side. And when we do, our guests will be eager to travel this beautiful world again. When that great day comes, we will be there to welcome them with the warmth and the care that we are known for the world over. Together we can, and we will overcome this, and we will thrive once again. Now, the second lesson that I got from this short message was this. As leadership, show shared sacrifice. Great military leaders earn the troops' trust by fighting alongside them or suffering along with them. In a war against the virus and its implications on business, employees want to know that their leaders are sharing the sacrifice. Sorensen caught the attention of the business media with this statement. Both Mr. Marriott and I will not be taking any salary for the balance of 2020. And my executive team will be taking a 50% cut in pay. This statement shows that Sorensen is fighting in the trenches alongside his teammates. Employees are often disengaged when they feel as though their leadership is disconnected or detached from the situation. Announcing that he's not taking a salary for the rest of the year communicates shared sacrifice. And the final lesson that I learned was this. Be authentic. I'm glad that Sorensen overruled members of his team who expressed reluctance about having him appear on video. The final 60 seconds of the video is almost impossible to capture in my little synopsis here. Choking back the tears, Sorensen says, I can tell you that I have never had a more difficult moment than this one. There is simply nothing worse than telling highly valued associates, people who are the very heart of this company, that their roles are being impacted by events completely outside of their control. This is a genuine, heartfelt message that is backed up by decades of showing this through his previous actions. Sorensen has built up a mountain of goodwill. In fact, Chief Executive Magazine named Sorensen as the CEO of the Year for 2019. Putting people first has always been the cornerstone of our success, Sorensen once said. This is as a result of being immersed in a people-first culture, demonstrated through action by great leaders like Bill Marriott and others before him. This is a crisis unlike any other, and there's a lot we can learn from it. None more important than just being authentic by being real and putting our people first. I would be interested in the stories of great leadership and culture that you have seen from your organizations. I'd love it if you could share some of them in the comment section below, or just by connecting with me. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And if you want to hear more content like this about leadership and organizational culture, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd really like to connect with you, and I look forward to chatting with you again. Take care.